For the past year or so, it's been taken for granted that prediction markets represent crypto's best instance of product market fit. According to this widely accepted perspective, platforms that aggregate human knowledge to forecast global events are functioning as non-partisan, truth-seeking engines that operate entirely free from the extractive fees of traditional finance. However, when you examine the actual mechanical upgrades and behind-the-scenes regulatory filings currently being executed by the sector's largest player, a different and far more calculated reality begins to emerge. Polymarket has fundamentally rewritten its foundational architecture by activating a massive fee structure, deploying its own proprietary stablecoin, and preparing for a token generation event that shifts the platform from a neutral protocol into a vertically integrated financial monopoly. And this aggressive expansion has huge potential consequences for the crypto industry and could even threaten Tether and Circle's dominance of the stablecoin market. My name is DC, and you're watching the Coin Bureau. Polymarket is widely celebrated as one of the few genuine success stories within crypto. The platform effectively transformed from a niche experimental betting application into an absolute powerhouse of information infrastructure that processes billions and billions of dollars in monthly trading volume. During the intense political cycles of recent years, the protocol served as a real-time crystal ball for global audiences, consistently outperforming traditional polling institutions and legacy media outlets in generating accurate probability models. But this massive influx of retail attention and trading volume did not occur in a regulatory vacuum, nor was it ignored by TradFi institutions looking to extract value from the decentralized economy. So to truly understand the magnitude of the platform's current evolution, we must first examine the brutal regulatory gauntlet that forced the company to completely restructure its operational framework. Back in January 2022, the United States Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC, levied a $1.4 million fine against Polymarket's parent company, Blockratise Incorporated. Polymarket was charged with operating as an unregistered swap execution facility in order to immediately wind down its non-compliant domestic markets and permanently block American citizens from ever accessing its services. Now, for most applications, a targeted enforcement action of this magnitude from a premier federal regulator would have represented a fatal blow to their long-term viability, obviously. Polymarket, however, complied with the cease and desist order, officially repositioning itself as an offshore platform catering strictly to international users, while simultaneously orchestrating a massive legal counteroffensive behind closed doors. In July of 2025, the platform executed a strategic and largely unprecedented acquisition by purchasing QCX LLC and QC Clearing LLC for a reported $112 million. This was not a standard corporate expansion, but rather a calculated regulatory maneuver designed to bypass the traditional federal approval process. By acquiring entities that have already possessed active licenses as both designated contract market and a derivatives clearing organization, Polymarket effectively purchased a fully regulated derivatives exchange directly off the shelf. This nine-figure acquisition instantly transformed their legal standing, granting them exact federal regulatory cover required to begin selectively reopening their doors to domestic institutional capital. The success of this regulatory pivot was so profound that Polymarket's CEO, Shane Copeland, was subsequently appointed to the Innovation Advisory Committee of the CFTC in early 2026, giving the platform a literal seat at the table with the very agency that previously sanctioned it. But this newfound regulatory legitimacy was merely the foundational prerequisite for a much larger and far more lucrative institutional capture of the prediction market sector. You see, the Intercontinental Exchange, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, recognized the immense value of this alternative financial data infrastructure. Through a series of massive capital injections, the TradFi giant committed up to $2 billion in total funding across multiple tranches, initially valuing the prediction platform at nearly $9 billion. More importantly, Intercontinental began directly distributing Polymarket's predictive probability data through its proprietary signals and sentiment service to institutional trading desks around the globe. This integration fundamentally altered the core purpose of the protocol, transitioning it from a consumer-facing betting application into a vital data generation engine for Wall Street algorithms. So every single time a retail user places a wager on a geopolitical outcome, they're unknowingly providing raw, highly valuable sentiment data that institutional trading firms use to hedge their macroeconomic portfolios. And once this institutional infrastructure was firmly established and the regulatory licenses were secured, the platform initiated an aggressive monetization strategy. For years, the protocol operated as a completely free public utility, subsidizing network costs and transaction fees to aggressively acquire users and build an insurmountable monopoly on liquidity. But as you know, free products in the digital space never remain free. And the platforms that ultimately survive are the ones capable of extracting revenue from their captive audiences without triggering a mass exodus. So in a matter of weeks, Polymarket flipped a programmatic switch that implemented a comprehensive fee overhaul across its entire underlying smart contract architecture. The results of this transition saw daily protocol revenue skyrocket from a baseline of just $1 million to $14 million. So when you extrapolate these figures, the platform is currently generating an annualized revenue of somewhere between $338 million and $400 million. And this is even more impressive when set against the backdrop of worsening conditions in the wider crypto market. Throughout the first quarter of 2026, Bitcoin has tumbled 22.5% year to date, while Ethereum suffered an even more dramatic contraction, plunging nearly 30% since the start of this year. Legacy DeFi protocols have meanwhile been decimated by this liquidity drain, with major governance tokens trading at multi-year lows. Uniswap, which has historically dominated decentralized exchange volumes, currently commands a total market capitalization of roughly $1.94 billion, after suffering a 75% drawdown from its previous highs. Similarly, Aave is currently trading at its 52-week low, commanding a market capitalization of merely $1.33 billion, despite securing billions and billions in total value locked. When you apply standard traditional finance valuation multiples to Polymarket's newly established revenue stream, the reality becomes impossible to ignore. At a highly conservative multiple of just 5 times their annualized revenue, the prediction platform's intrinsic value would roughly equal the entire circulating market cap of Uniswap. And if you apply a more aggressive 10x multiple, the platform's valuation approaches $3.69 billion, making it nearly 3 times more valuable than the foundational Aave lending market. So, Polymarket has effectively bypassed the entire legacy DeFi ecosystem to become one of the most profitable crypto protocols in existence. However, this massive financial windfall is being extracted directly from the wallets of the everyday retail users who initially built the platform's network effects. The new monetization framework implements a complex maker versus taker dynamic that fundamentally alters the profitability mathematics for the average participant. Under this revised architecture, users who provide liquidity to the order books are theoretically rewarded, while users who cross the spread to execute immediate trades are hit with substantial extraction fees. But the true structural flaw of this system reveals itself during edge case scenarios where the probability of a specific event occurring is heavily skewed toward one absolute outcome. In these highly asymmetric markets, users have reported facing effective execution fees ranging anywhere from 30% to an absolutely exorbitant 90% of their total potential profit. This draconian fee structure essentially destroys the financial incentive to participate in markets that are nearing resolution, trapping retail capital in positions that are all but impossible to exit profitably. Naturally, the implementation of these fees has sparked a major outrage across the crypto community, raising questions about whether Polymarket has finally pushed its extractive capabilities too far. And this tension is only further compounded by recent data regarding the actual baseline profitability of the retail participants providing liquidity to these markets. According to a blockchain analysis conducted in April 2026, an overwhelming 84.1% of all traders using Polymarket are currently operating at a net loss. Out of the millions and millions of individual addresses interacting with the protocol, only 0.033% of accounts have successfully managed to generate profits exceeding the 6-figure mark. This effectively demonstrates that the platform functions primarily as a highly efficient mechanism for transferring wealth from the retail public directly into the hands of a few sophisticated institutional actors. And despite this growing user frustration and the glaring unprofitability of the retail base, the platform's leadership has chosen to double down on their vertical integration strategy. You see, the fee switch was merely the first phase of a much broader architectural overhaul designed to completely sever Polymarket's reliance on external cryptographic infrastructure. This brings us to the deployment of the CTF Exchange version 2 upgrade, which fundamentally rewrites the settlement layer of the entire prediction market ecosystem. Through this technical overhaul, Polymarket has officially launched its own proprietary stablecoin, known as Polymarket USD, or PUSD for short. On the surface, this new asset appears relatively benign, operating as a standard digital token that is backed exactly one-to-one by Circle's existing USDC stablecoin reserves. But when you examine the underlying mechanics of this deployment, it becomes apparent that this is a hostile takeover of Polymarket's own monetary layer. By forcing all internal market settlements to route exclusively through their proprietary asset, the platform no longer depends on external stablecoin issuers to facilitate its core product offerings. They have successfully internalized the entire transaction lifecycle, granting themselves absolute administrative control over how capital flows into, through, and out of their ecosystem. Now, the dangers of this specific architectural shift for the legacy financial infrastructure of the crypto industry become apparent when we look at the current state of the global stablecoin market. The crypto ecosystem currently relies on a massive $262.7 billion stablecoin duopoly that dictates the flow of nearly all fiat-denominated liquidity across every major blockchain network. Tether's USDT dominates this landscape, commanding a market cap of roughly $187 billion and capturing 70% of the total tracked stablecoin supply. Circle's USDC serves as the primary alternative, maintaining a highly respectable $75.6 billion market cap that accounts for 28.3% of the overall market share. Now, these two centralized entities wield enormous influence over the decentralized economy, serving as the mandatory toll booths for any user attempting to park capital outside of volatile crypto assets. And Tether's business model is arguably one of the most capital-efficient enterprises in history of modern finance, generating massive profits through basic reserve spread income. The company absorbs billions of dollars in user deposits, pays zero interest to the retail holders of their digital tokens, and subsequently invests those funds into high-yielding US Treasury bills. This simple arbitrage mechanism allowed Tether to report a profit exceeding $13 billion for 2024. Furthermore, USDT processes nearly $67.4 billion in daily trading volume as the primary settlement layer for high-frequency algorithmic trading. This high-velocity turnover is exactly the specific utility function that prediction markets naturally generate, as users constantly rotate capital between thousands of rapidly resolving event contracts. So by launching their own proprietary settlement asset, Polymarket has explicitly signaled that they are no longer willing to let external entities capture the massive value generated by the platform's velocity. And this localized monetary rebellion exposes a massive structural vulnerability that threatens to upend the dominance of both Tether and Circle in the coming years. If a prediction market can successfully launch and mandate the use of its own proprietary stablecoin, there's nothing stopping the rest of the DeFi sector from executing the exact same playbook. So what happens to the legacy stablecoin duopoly if Uniswap decides to launch its own native stablecoin to capture the yield on its massive trading volumes? What happens to the broader crypto ecosystem if Aave forces all borrowers and suppliers to use a proprietary fiat-pegged asset controlled entirely by their own governance token? We're witnessing the beginning of a massive stablecoin fragmentation where every major crypto platform will attempt to vertically integrate their own monetary layer to capture reserve yield. This directly threatens the $13 billion profit engine that Tether has painstakingly built, as captive user bases are systematically walled off into proprietary platform-specific currencies. But as fiat liquidity becomes increasingly siloed across dozens of competing protocol-specific stablecoins, the overall efficiency of the DeFi ecosystem will inevitably degrade. Retail investors will be forced to navigate a complex web of settlement assets, constantly paying extraction fees to bridge capital between these isolated digital economies. What's more, the monetization of the platform and the launch of a proprietary currency are only two components of a much darker and deeply controversial operational reality. While Polymarket attempts to position itself as a neutral financial utility on par with traditional data providers, it is simultaneously battling a massive wave of ethical and legal crises. The platform has repeatedly drawn intense international condemnation for hosting what critics and lawmakers have explicitly labeled as dystopian death markets. In early April, the world held its breath after a US Air Force jet was shot down over Iran. While two American airmen were actively missing in hostile territory, Polymarket immediately listed a market allowing users to place financial wagers on the specific timing and circumstances of their potential rescue. This grotesque gamification of an active military crisis triggered an immediate and furious response from political leaders across the United States government. Representative Seth Moulton, a combat veteran of the Marine Corps, publicly condemned the platform's actions, highlighting the moral depravity of gambling on the lives of active duty service members. He pointed out that these markets create perverse financial incentives for individuals to actively seek out and potentially leak classified military intelligence to gain a trading advantage. The public outcry was so severe that the congressman subsequently issued a sweeping directive banning his entire congressional staff from ever using or participating in any prediction market platforms whatsoever. While Polymarket ultimately removed the specific pilot rescue market and issued a formal apology, citing a failure of their internal safeguards, the underlying ethical rot remains deeply embedded in their operational model. At the exact moment they issued that apology, Polymarket was still actively hosting over 200 separate event contracts directly tied to ongoing geopolitical warfare and military casualties. This was not an isolated incident, as the platform has previously been forced to remove highly controversial markets, allowing users to wager on nuclear detonations and the official classification of a famine in Gaza. During an Iranian missile strike earlier this year, the financial incentives created by these markets resulted in the severe targeted harassment of an Israeli journalist reporting on this conflict. Users who had placed massive financial wagers on the outcome of the strikes actively sent death threats and lucrative bribe offers to the reporter, attempting to illegally influence her coverage to alter the market's resolution. And this worrying intersection of financial speculation and global conflict brings us to the most severe legal threat currently facing the entire prediction market industry. While Polymarket's chief executive has historically defended the platform as a non-partisan truth-seeking engine that provides clarity during times of geopolitical confusion, the actual trading data suggests something far more sinister. In March 2026, researchers from the Columbia Law School and the University of Haifa published an academic study analyzing over 93,000 individual markets hosted on the platform. The researchers identified an astonishing 210,000 highly suspicious trades executed between 2024 and 2026 that perfectly align with the classic patterns of illegal insider trading. These meticulously timed transactions generated approximately $143 million in abnormal profits for a highly concentrated group of well-positioned and completely anonymous digital wallets. The study specifically highlighted a cluster of 6 distinct addresses that extracted over $1 million in pure profit by placing massive wagers on military strikes just hours before the operations were publicly confirmed. Another individual trader successfully netted nearly $1 million by consistently and accurately predicting highly classified military actions executed by allied forces throughout the Middle East. This academic research shatters the illusion that these platforms are aggregating the collective wisdom of the crowds to generate accurate probability models. Instead, the data suggests that these markets are functioning as highly efficient money laundering mechanisms that allow individuals with high-level security clearances to directly monetize classified government intelligence. This theoretical vulnerability transitioned into a concrete criminal reality in February 2026, when Israeli authorities handed down unprecedented legal indictments against an Air Force reservist and a civilian accomplice. The pair was formally charged with using highly classified operational military intelligence to execute guaranteed winning trades on Polymarket at the height of the regional conflict. This landmark criminal prosecution represents the first known instance of state authorities aggressively pursuing insider trading charges specifically tied to a decentralized prediction market. The Southern District of New York has already taken notice, with federal prosecutors actively investigating whether Polymarket's operational model inherently violates established anti-money laundering and anti-fraud statutes. David Miller, the enforcement director for the CFTC, has explicitly stated that the agency will aggressively detect and prosecute insider trading across these newly regulated event contracts. This mounting legal pressure has forced Polymarket to implement a comprehensive three-tier market surveillance framework, officially partnering with the National Futures Association to monitor trading activity. They have updated their terms of service to explicitly prohibit trades based on stolen confidential information or illegal tips, though enforcing these rules across anonymous cryptographic wallets remains functionally impossible. And while the platform battles these severe ethical controversies and federal insider trading investigations, it is simultaneously facing a legislative assault from Capitol Hill. In March 2026, a bipartisan coalition led by Senators Adam Schiff and John Curtis introduced sweeping federal legislation explicitly titled the Prediction Markets Are Gambling Act. This aggressive legislative package aims to fundamentally amend the Commodity Exchange Act, specifically prohibiting federally registered entities from listing any event contracts that resemble sports bets or casino-style games. Simultaneously, Representative Richie Torres introduced the Public Integrity in Financial Prediction Markets Act, which seeks to explicitly criminalize the act of trading on non-public information within these digital ecosystems. Now, this federal hostility is being mirrored at the local level, with at least 11 separate state governments issuing aggressive cease and desist orders against Polymarket as of early 2026. States like Nevada, Massachusetts, and Connecticut argue that these platforms constitute unlicensed sports betting operations that completely violate established state-level gaming regulation. The prediction market industry is currently engaged in an estimated $40 million lobbying war against a massive coalition of traditional anti-gambling advocates to secure the legal right to exist. They did score a massive judicial victory on the 6th of April when the Third United States Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of rival platform Kalshi, affirming that the federal commodities regulator holds exclusive jurisdiction over these contracts. This crucial legal precedent directly benefits Polymarket, potentially shielding them from the fragmented patchwork of state-level gaming commissions attempting to shut down the operations. But the platform's ability to survive this multi-front regulatory war ultimately depends on the success execution of the final and most highly anticipated phase of their architectural overhaul. Now, to complete their transition into an absolute crypto powerhouse, Polymarket is actively preparing to launch its own proprietary governance asset, widely rumored to be entirely separate from its newly minted stablecoin. While the company has historically remained tight-lipped regarding the specifics of a potential token generation event, the verifiable legal paper trail completely eliminates any remaining ambiguity. On the 4th of February, the platform's parent company officially filed comprehensive applications with the United States Patent and Trademark Office to legally secure the rights to the Poly ticker. These extensive federal trademark filings explicitly cover financial software, digital tokens, and decentralized trading platforms, providing undeniable proof that a massive token launch is currently in the pipeline. Furthermore, the platform's chief marketing officer, Matthew Modaber, explicitly confirmed on the record during an October 2025 interview that there will absolutely be a native token and a subsequent community airdrop. Industry analysts are currently projecting that this distribution event could rival the massive scale of the historic Uniswap airdrop, potentially distributing billions and billions of dollars in value directly to early platform adopters. However, the mechanics of this highly anticipated distribution are being meticulously engineered to filter out the massive swarms of automated bots attempting to farm the protocol for free capital. The platform's growth lead recently confirmed that the official snapshot for eligibility has not yet been taken, triggering a massive wave of speculative trading volume as users desperately attempt to secure their allocations. The community consensus suggests that the distribution will heavily prioritize a proof of value engagement model, specifically rewarding users who consistently provide liquidity to the order books rather than those who simply execute high-volume wash trades. This distinction is absolutely critical, especially considering that a recent academic study flagged approximately a fourth or 25% of the platform's total historical volume as completely artificial wash trading designed solely to manipulate metrics. So by separating the monetary settlement layer of PUSD from the political governance layer of the rumored Poly token, Polymarket is attempting to build a highly coherent and legally defensible decentralization narrative. They are using the stablecoin to capture the massive financial yield of their internal ecosystem, while theoretically using the governance token to decentralize administrative control and satisfy aggressive federal regulators. But this complex three-part strategy of implementing exorbitant fees, launching a proprietary settlement currency, and deploying a governance token represent a big departure from the platform's original foundational ethos. The protocol that once served as a pristine fee-free public utility for aggregating human knowledge has officially transformed into a highly optimized machine designed specifically to extract maximum capital from the retail public. They have successfully harnessed the crypto community to build an insurmountable liquidity moat, only to pull up the drawbridge and begin charging absolutely massive tolls for access to the very infrastructure said community helped construct. This evolution serves as a brutal macroeconomic case study in the maturation of the digital asset industry, proving once again that the legacy financial playbook of vertical integration and user extraction is completely unavoidable. As Polymarket actively targets a staggering $20 billion institutional valuation, the everyday retail bettors who continue to lose money on the protocol are essentially funding the creation of Wall Street's newest alternative data monopoly. The prediction market that accurately forecasted the outcomes of global elections is now making the most dangerous, unhedged bet in its entire corporate history. They are betting that their platform's network effects are so incredibly dominant that they can simultaneously navigate federal insider trading investigations, hostile congressional legislation, and massive user backlash over predatory fees without suffering a catastrophic collapse in liquidity. On one hand, the successful deployment of a proprietary stablecoin and the implementation of a massive revenue engine proves that decentralized applications can achieve true commercial sustainability without relying on endless token inflation. But on the other hand, this aggressive vertical integration destroys the neutral, interoperable infrastructure that initially made DeFi. So, what are your thoughts on this architectural shift within the prediction market sector? Will the platforms launching their own proprietary stablecoins ultimately destroy the dominance of centralized issuers like Tether and Circle, or will the implementation of exorbitant edge case fees and the ongoing insider trading controversies eventually drive retail users away from these vertically integrated monopolies? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to understand how massive institutional asset managers are centralizing the underlying supply of the Bitcoin network, then consider checking out our deep dive on that exact topic right over here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. This is DC, signing off.